Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of August the 24th, 2023. The current character challenge is Martian Manhunter. That is a 1 week repeat. The required characters for that are Lex Luthor, Sinestro, and Bane, who are bronze, and silver, respectively. If you're looking at the lowest tier, you can get them in the shop. His passive is Telepathic Attack, which is Martian Manhunter's basic combo, has a chance of launching a telepathic attack, which causes random effects on his opponent. He's got 750 attack and 1,200 health. He was last available on the 27th of October, 2022.
Okay. So, he has pretty low overall stats, only 750 attack. And last week's pack was a bit of a tease, right? It was the Blackest Night Martian Manhunter challenge pack last week. We got Martian Manhunter instead, but that's pretty typical. There's no Martian Manhunter pack. Yeah. And they usually like to give something that's related before. Mm-hmm. Health is decent. So that random effect, you can get a stun, power drain, or mental damage. And if you think about, about half the time, maybe 50% of the time you get a combo ender, there's about a third of a chance of each of those. So there's a 1 in 6 chance of any one of them happening when you try tap combo. When you start tap combo, 1 in 6 stun, 1 in 6 power drain, 1 in 6 mental damage.
Yeah.
And if you look on the wiki page, it's interesting. So we get combo enders about half the time. On the wiki page, they have a sampling where they got a combo ender more than 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Which seems not real.
Or it just seems different.
It's definitely not our experience.
Yeah.
So the problem is it happens so seldom. Any one thing, they're all so different. So stun would be good if you're trying to maximize stun damage when you're using Cloak of Destiny or Necron Scythe, but the effect is blockable. Mm-hmm. The mental damage is too small to make a difference, especially with his low attack stat, and it replaces the normal combo under damage that you get. So this is, to me, it's the worst effect of all three. Yeah. Because you get a damage over time effect instead of the combo under hit. It's spread out over seconds, so you could actually avoid the damage. Mm-hmm. And the damage is not more than what you would get with a normal combo ender.
Yeah.
And, you could gear him to take advantage of that damage over time, but such a waste of a gear slot for something that only happens 1 out of every 6 tap combos.
Yeah, it's not consistent enough for it to make sense for you to really play around it. It's,
and they're so different, right? Yeah. Like, it's not like you could gear it one way that would work with all 3 effects.
Yeah, you'll notice the benefits when they happen, but, there's not really any way of making it really work to your advantage in a really synergistic way.
Yeah, and the power drain's not bad. I think it really takes off a bar of power, like 1/3 if he's... Yeah, so it's not bad. It would be great effect if this happened more often. Mm-hmm. So given these limitations, he's one of those characters that we've avoided using until we started using every challenge character as the main damage dealer starting November of 2022. So the biggest limitation using him as the main damage dealer is because his attack stat is so low. Unless you want to run an unbalanced team where he is, the weak one, you're not getting max battle points. Yeah. And you can see what we're doing, right? In this fight, we don't want him to be outclassed. He's not doing a lot of damage. It's not far off, though. Only the first fight of this team is sub 5,000. It's like 4,500. Mm-hmm. But you're right on the edge. His teammates in this team are Hawkgirl to make Martian Manhunter with his Tantu Totem and Master's Death Cart more effective. And Red Lantern Hal Jordan. I always get them mixed up. Red Lantern Hal Jordan is a gear stripper. And the interesting thing about Martian Manhunter's special 2 that we wouldn't have known until we played with him.
Wait, is it Red Lantern Hal Jordan or is it
Red Lantern Hal Jordan?
Red Sun, Green Lantern.
Red Lantern Hal Jordan.
Okay.
So the interesting thing about his special 2 that we would never have figured out if we hadn't played with him is the timing of the 3 hits. So there's 3 hits. Hit 1 and 2 are very close together, so that if the first hit knocks out the opponent, the second hit will miss, and the third hit will hit the opponent tagging in. Okay? So what makes the interesting part isn't actually that. It's that his hits 2 and 3 look like they're separated by a decent amount of time, especially if you're taking your cues from the animation. So if the opponent... if the opponent gets knocked out on the second hit, the third hit will miss the opponent who's tagging in, even though it looks like it should be hitting them, because the animation looks like he's winding up for the hit. Yeah. The opponent's tagged and he's right in front of him and he takes a hit and he whiffs.
Yeah. Just punch in the air.
Right. So another interesting thing about a special 2 that makes it even less effective is, all right, so the first 2 hits are ranged. so the separation between you and the opponent almost doesn't matter unless there's a situation that I haven't seen yet where we're really separated. Most of the time, the first 2 hits will hit no matter how far away the opponent is.
Yeah.
But the third hit is not ranged. So if the opponent survives the first 2 hits and they're far enough away from you, because the second hit shoves them away a little bit. So if you started your special 2 a little bit too far away, the third hit whiffs. And this is really important in the example that you're seeing on the screen, because we've geared Martian Manhunter with Tentu Totem, Master's Death Card, and Ibis Stick. And you don't get the burn effect of Ibis Stick because the third hit misses, and it's supposed to trigger on the third hit.
So that can suck.
Right. So on top of that, all right, so what seems like might be a benefit is sort of a mixed bag, because the hits they all deal about the same damage.
Okay.
The first 2 hits, if you're paying attention, you can see when they crit, the first 2 hits are about 55,000 each, and the third hit is somewhere around 50,000. Because I'm not swiping fast enough to get the full 200% most of the time, it's probably somewhere around there. So you'd think that would be good, because in a special 2 that actually would space better, you have a good chance of just whacking a bunch of different opponents. In this case, because the third hit is not that useful except as animation to protect you from the opponent tagging in for a tagging effect, like Rebirth Raven stealing your health, or not stealing your power, then it would be almost better if the last hit did hardly any damage at all. Because most of the time it really doesn't do any.
Yeah, because you either need to waste the second hit or waste the third hit. You can't get value out of all of them or knock them out with the third hit.
Right. And you can't get any kind of damage over time effect or whatever combo and and the special effect, because that last hit whiffs. Better off just getting, even if it did 1 point damage, it would still protect you, and then you get more value out of like knocking out your opponent, so you're better off with more hits anyways. So I didn't like him before we started playing with him, and I like him even less after playing with him, even though you can still make an effective team out of with him.
Wow, okay. So that's the 167th week of a repeating pattern that first appeared in May of 2020, which is 3 complete cycles of a 43-week sequence and 40 weeks into the 4th cycle. Next week, as long as the pattern holds, we should be seeing Godfall Superman.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're down to Godfall Superman, Hawkgirl Regime as things at the end of the sequence, and the 3 interruptions that we missed, which were Batman Ninja Joker, John Stewart Green Lantern, who is really awful. I'm not looking forward to playing with him, in Arkham Origins Bane.
So those are the only people that we haven't actually showed off in a team.
Right.
Since we've started doing that every week.
And 23 characters still missing.
Yeah. This week's multiplayer reward is Blackest Night Flash, and his passive is when resurrected, or his passive is called Black Flash, and it's when resurrected, Blackest Night Flash returns with 100% health. Basic attacks against the Flash have a 10% chance to miss and leave the attacker open to counterattack, and instead of taking damage, all Blackest Night teammates gain health and power from enemy damage over times. He's got 1,500 attack and 1,300 health, was last available on the 19th of January 2023. This is 138 weeks in a row of a consistent pattern, so that's 4 cycles of a 31 reward sequence and 14 in a 5th cycle, with nothing missing from the multiplayer rewards. Next week should be Ibis Stick, if the pattern holds.
Right. So he's got very high base stats. He's got good, fast, basic attacks like all the Flash skins.
Yeah, and he's damage heavy for his stats too, which is always good.
Right. And there's 3 elements to his passive, each of which would be enough by itself for a gold card. And I guess depending on how you count them, you could even really look at it as maybe 6 abilities on his passive. The second one could be 2, and that last one could be 3. So the interesting, all right, so his resurrections, if you give him the 2 of the fourth world gear set, Necron Scythe and Blackest Night Hawkgirl on his team, what you do, normally with fourth world gear set, you only get 31%. Necron Scythe only gives you 65, and Blackest Night Hawkgirl only gives you 20.
Yeah. So in a way, it's almost like twice as much revive as another gear normally gives you.
Right. So if you're doing all 3, his passive is giving you an extra 184% of his health pool, which is great. Now, using up 3 gear slots to resurrect that many times limits his offensive potential because, how long do you need him to live if he isn't doing lots of damage?
Yeah.
But New 52 Wonder Woman, which is not a Blackest Night teammate, would be an amazing teammate to give him power and make up for that. So he could be the tank, like a really good tank, and he would have the offensive potential just from having power from New 52 Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got other passive abilities to make him even more dangerous against his opponents. So whiffing on basic attacks, there's a 10% chance for basic attacks to miss. It's not really new. Gaslight Batman does that too. But his passive is the first one that gives you a relatively large window to counterattack. And you look at the counterattack as maybe a secondary ability, right? Because when they whiff, they're frozen. They just freeze and they pause. Yeah. The low percentage of, 10% of this happening keeps this ability from being just way too unbalancing.
Yeah.
And if he had no other abilities, and it was only, say, like a 20% chance instead of 10% chance, I think this would be a good enough passive for a gold.
Yeah, especially because it's relatively easy to bait out the enemy into doing basic attacks on you.
Right. And then you've got the last ability of his passive. Or, 2 abilities, or even 3, depending on how you break it down, right? Some characters are immune to damage over time, and that's their ability.
Yeah.
Right? I think one of the Scorpions has immunity, not even to damage over time, only to fire.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight Batman can pick immunity to damage over time as a Wayne Tech boost. So this passive is as good as damage over time immunity. But that's not what it is, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, you get a health gain from damage over time, which is another ability. And separate from that, you get power gain from damage over time.
Yeah, and it's diffused to all teammates.
Right.
So it's pretty solid. It's a lot better than sort of a lot of passives in the game already. I guess the only problem is how situational it is, because you don't run into damage over time teams super often.
But it is a huge amount of power creep, right? So he's got the highest stats. He is Flash.
Yeah.
He's got a teammate passive. He's got his own passive, and they're all pretty powerful. I mean, this is this is that intermediate level where you're not quite getting to nth metal, but you're really at the highest sort of stat monster.
Yeah. The highest echelon of gold.
Yeah.
Moving on to the store, we have the Godfall Superman bundle for $24.99 Canadian. All these prices are going to be in Canadian. There's a corroborate include in next week's challenge, being Godfall Superman. It comes with 100,000 power credits, and it doesn't unlock in your store.
Mm-hmm. We talked about character bundle, Batman versus Superman. It's the second week. In an unusual move, I think, is this the third week of the Femme Fatale pack, or was this the second week? I can't remember now. New is the Sorcery Pack for $24.99 with Zatanna, Raven, and Kondak Black Adam. I mean, you're getting more characters for $24.99, but I don't know that any of them are that great. Raven's interesting. She's still useful because of her passive, but not my favorite pack.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of other packs have been around for almost 2 years now that we'll just sort of skip over.
At that point, I think they're permanent packs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phantom Zone is finished. Fight 62 is still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Cyborg, Batgirl, and Black Adam. And this coming weekend is probably Deadshot and Wonder Woman and Static. Link in the description to a thread in the Injustice Mobile subreddit from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the part where we will talk about the glitches. And as far as the current glitches go, we typically will go into a lot more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. Even if nothing changes, though, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was our recap from August the 3rd. And there's also a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Glitches, or Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video in the eye in the top right corner. Mm-hmm. The one thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's Martian Manhunter challenge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to finish up, we would like to give a huge thank you to all of our lovely supporters on Patreon.
And that would be Alexis M supporting us on the Your Message Here tier, Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, and Hoshi 127 who are supporting us on the credit level, and the other people you see on our screen who have been generous enough to have supported us at some point during this pandemic.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.